What's up everyone, Darcblade here with another guide to Monster Hunter Rise. In this video we're going to be demonstrating a pre-Sunbreak build, this time for the dual blades. Now what is a pre-Sunbreak build? Well, it's an endgame Monster Hunter Rise build that we can take into the start of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, into the start of Master Rank and take on the early monsters relatively comfortably. Whilst these builds will soon be replaced with Master Rank gear, they should give us the best possible head start. Now before we get into the video, a reminder that if you enjoy these builds and want to see more of them, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on the video, as we make multiple builds for Monster Hunter as well as other games. Now when it comes to the dual blades in Monster Hunter Rise, it's one of the weapons that can really utilise elemental builds, but these pre-Sunbreak builds are supposed to be universal builds that we can take against any monster, and when it comes to elements we are kind of restricted in who we can use certain elements against, thanks to the whole monsters being resistant to certain elements. So in the case of this pre-Sunbreak build, I am instead using a raw attack build that focuses on ailments. Specifically the poison ailment. Rarely is a monster completely immune to the poison ailment, meaning that this build should effectively work against most monsters we come across, especially when it comes to the early Master Rank monsters. It also has a few quality of life skills attached to it, which in turn benefit our defense, but I'll explain why later. So for this poison dual blade build you'll need the following armor pieces. First of all you'll need the Kaiser Crown, then the Vike Mail S, the Valstrax Braces, Anjanath Coil S, and the Ingot Grooves S. For my petalace, I'm using an absolute petalace, although this is down to personal preference. And then when it comes to your talisman, this all depends on what you have available to you. Not everyone has access to the same talismans, unfortunately. When it comes to this build, I'd recommend getting a talisman that has at least a level 2 protective polish attached to it. This can either be via 2 tier 2 decoration slots or skills attached to the talisman themselves. And then finally when it comes to the weaponry, I've got the Dior Chameleos, which is the Chameleos dual blades. And as for his rampage skills, you can either go for the Chameleos Soul or the attack boost. So when it comes to the decorations, you've got a lot of decoration slots to play around with. So first of all I've gone for Tenderizer Jaws to max out weakness exploit, I've then gone for Venom Jaws to max out poison attack, I've then gone for Critical Jaws to max out crit boost, Grinder Jaws to max out speed sharpening, a Wirebug Jaw to max out Wirebug Whisperer, Sharp Jaws to max out Protective Polish, and then finally a Brace Jaw to give us a point and flinch free. Some of these jaws are optional, such as the Wirebug Jaw, so you can replace that with something else if you so desire. So if you've done what I've done here, you'll have a build with 236 raw attack with a poison rating of 53. You'll also have white sharpness with 25% base affinity, which can easily be 75% when you take into account weakness exploit, and you have an okay defense of 497 that is strong against fire, neutral against dragon, but unfortunately slightly weak to the other elements. As for the switch skills, with the dual blades, I say they're down to personal preference. So when it comes to the skills, first of all you'll have Critical Eye at level 5, increasing the base affinity of this build. You'll then have Attack Boost at level 4, increasing the raw attack of this build. You'll then have Critical Boost at level 3. Critical Boost is a skill that increases our damage whenever we crit a monster. However, this only applies to the raw portion of an attack, not the elemental or ailment portion. You'll then have Weakness Exploit at level 3, which is a skill that increases our affinity by up to 50% whenever we're attacking monster weak points. You'll then have Poison Attack at level 3, increasing the poison rating of the Chameleos dual blades, as well as how quickly we can build up the poison ailment on monsters. You'll then have Protective Polish at level 3, which is a skill that puts a protective coating over our sharpness gauge, preventing any sharpness loss for a duration of time whenever we sharpen our weapon. And this combined with Speed Sharpening, which is at level 3, means that we can apply this protective coating quite quickly. You'll then have Speed Sharpening at level 3, as I mentioned, which increases how quickly we can sharpen our weapon, and then you'll have Wirebug Whisperer at level 3. Wirebug Whisperer for this build is a quality of life skill, but it also factors into this build's defensive aspects. When it comes to the dual blades, its biggest defense is the Wirebug move Shrouded Vault, which allows us to dash into attacks and counter monsters with our own attacks, preventing any damage to us whilst damaging a monster at the same time. So Wirebug Whisperer at level 3, which increases how quickly we can get our Wirebugs back, also allows us to perform the Shrouded Vault more often, adding to our defense. Of course, Wirebug Whisperer will also enhance the offensive side of our Wirebugs by allowing us to perform the offensive Wirebug moves more often, but I primarily use this for the defensive side of the dual blades. You'll then have Flinch Free at level 1, which is a skill that prevents minor knockbacks on our hunter, as well as knockbacks from our allies when we're playing multiplayer. And then finally you'll have Dragonheart level 1, which is a byproduct of the armor we're wearing. Dragonheart at level 1, when our health reaches 50% or less, we'll contract Dragon Blight, but in doing so, it will increase all our elemental defenses. But you'll primarily want to get rid of Dragon Blight, as it will nullify the ailment effect on our Chameleos Dual Blades. So the Dragon Blight is a good indicator of when we need to stop and heal. So there we have it, that is the build I'd recommend using for the Dual Blades. Whilst it may not be the most quote-unquote meta set out there, as there are higher damaging dual blades out there, this is nonetheless a comfortable dual blade build that you can take against the majority of monsters in the game. Like I said, rarely is a monster completely immune to poison, so this will work well against them, but on top of that, we have quality of life skills, making a hunt feel more easier. If you wanted a more damage focused build, I'd recommend using the Valstrax armor set combined with the Valstrax dual blades. But of course this build won't work so well against enemies who are resistant to the dragon element. But every build out there has pros and cons, no build is perfect. When it comes to the Element Dual Blade build, one of its biggest pros is its damage output. It has decent raw attack combined with decent affinity rating and the poison element, meaning that we should be able to take on monsters quite comfortably. On top of that, this build has a lot of quality of life aspects attached to it. From Protective Polish, Speed Sharpening, Wirebug Whisperer, these can all make hunts feel easier than they are, as it adds to our defense, offense, and also manages our sharpness gauge. And then finally is that this build can be pretty much used against any monster in the game, as it focuses on raw attack and the poison element. Like I said, rarely is a monster completely immune to the poison element, so this should be quite effective against the majority of monsters in the game. But unfortunately there are cons. The biggest cons for this build is, unfortunately, even though we are using the dual blades, we have no stamina related skills attached to this build, which means that we won't be able to stay in demon or feral demon mode as long as we would like. And the other con is, unfortunately, this build also lacks defensive skills. Whilst this is complemented slightly with the Shrouded Vault Wirebug move and the Wirebug Whisperer skill, it is still something to be aware of when using this build. But regardless, this is a strong build for the dual blades that is actually quite fun to use. As I said, it's a build that doesn't rely on elements, which makes it a more universal build, allowing us to use this build against anything we come across at the start of Master Rank. So long as you're managing your Wirebug gauge and using the Shrouded Vault for defense, this build can perform exceedingly well. But what are your thoughts? Please leave a comment down below, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you a pre-Sunbreak build, this time for the dual blades in Monster Hunter Rise. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.